This is Scott Seaton, music director of the North State Symphony, and we are here with one of our interviews for Beethoven Idol. And for those of you not familiar with this, this past year we've held the North State Symphony Composition Competition where we had 46 entries from all over the world, and now we're down to our final three composers, and we will feature them in a process with the orchestra where we rehearse the pieces, and then the orchestra and the audience and everyone gets to actually have input on which piece they'd like to hear alongside Beethoven 9 in our 20th season. So I'm very happy to be here today with Andrea Donati. Andrea, how are you?
Yeah, very fine. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we're just going to chat a little bit about your background. So if you can, maybe tell us, how did you get to where you are today? How did you begin in music?
hmm
And maybe let's start with what was your first instrument when you started in music?
Well, I didn't started with composition, and my way to professional music, I think it's quite unusual for a composer. I started as a bass player in the jazz area here in Milan, in Italy. That's the place where I live. And well, I started to be a professional jazz bass player in the 90s, and it lasted a kind for a decade, all the 90s. After this period, I felt that this was not enough for me and for what I wanted to do with music. And I already made two CDs with some compositions of mine, but I wanted to work more on the compositional side. And so I was ready also with my studies in the meantime. And so by the change of the century, I shifted into composer as a full-time profession.
Mm. And you haven't looked back, right?
Yeah, sure.
Do you still do a lot of performing then?
No, I don't play no more. I think the last concert I did with my bass was kind of 5 years ago,
Ah.
and slightly went less and less, and then I completely stopped.
I know how that is. It's hard to do everything.
Yeah.
Um, and as a composer, would you say that you have a particular set of influences, either or people or style wise, or what makes your compositions unique?
Well, I think that my path in music gives me some features that are my points. Things that I feel stronger. I think that all that years spent in playing with the jazz groups and different people projects left me something that gives something more that a normal classical composer usually has. And so, well, I think that I made all the path of classical studies because it's now the language I feel more representative to me. But all that approach also to the harmonic world that's typical of the jazz, I think left his sign on me.
Mhm. If you let's say you listen to a lot of jazz, I assume, right?
Yeah.
If you had to throw on,
In the past years, at the
sure.
moment, I really, I think I only listen classical music since many years.
Oh, really? Okay, okay. So on the classical side, do you have sort of a set of favorite composers?
Yeah, I think that all the music made by the beginning of the last century in the French area, a composer like Ravel, Debussy, Prokofiev, also that's not French, of course, but was in that period, are still the most representative and my guidelines for me.
Hmm, hmm. So let's chat a little bit about your piece.
Mm.
So Queen Bee,
Mhm.
um, how did that come about?
Well, it started from as I was saying before, that kind of rhythmic word I was in the past years, since is a tune is a piece in seven, and so the main rhythm is in seven. So there's a lot of rhythmic. Um, um, rhythmic research in that kind of music, of piece, but also with a part in the middle that's more evocative, more melodic, and with a more research, more harmonic way. So I think I mixed all the elements.
It's definitely a very rhythmic piece, and it's definitely got this drive to it and throughout it. Does it have a particular program in mind, or or how did the title come about?
Well, it came it started since my meeting with a poet many years ago. Alda Merini was a very famous Italian poet living here in Milan. And we made a work together, and I wrote some music on her texts many years ago. And so that was the original how can I say, the start. That was the start of this music. The main melody started from there, and then all the work about orchestration came very late.
Okay, I see.
Later.
And when did you write the piece?
A kind of in this final configuration and orchestration, I finished it kind of 5-6 years ago.
As a composer, do you? I know this piece is obviously for orchestra. Do you prefer writing for orchestra?
Yeah. It's what I like most. Orchestra, and also for voices, for
Do you?
choirs.
Oh yeah. Okay. So do you have a lot of choral pieces in your canon?
No, what do you mean about copies? People who write for me the parts?
No. Do you have a lot of choral pieces that you have written?
Choral pieces, yes. Because since the last years, I'm working mainly with choirs.
Oh, you have. Okay, great.
Yeah, I founded a choir 5 years ago, which performs only music from me, and we are now close to realize our third CD.
Ah, I see. And because of your particular background, especially in jazz and your instrument, do you ever write more for a jazz combination of instruments?
Well, in the past years, in the 90s, as I told before, I made 2 CDs by that time, and they were also in the jazz language. So it was in that it was like that. Yeah.
And but not anymore. Now it's just
No.
orchestra.
I'm all interested in a kind of classical language. So everything written, because my research is a lot in the direction of harmony and the relationship between harmony and melody, even if very modern, I think, in a very modern way, but that's my point. That's my research. So everything is written now.
Okay, great. Is there anything else that you would like someone who is introduced to your works for the first time to know?
Well, no, I don't know. Just I'm not prepared about that. But I think that I think, like Schoenberg told, that there's a lot of music to write also in C major.
Hmm.
So this phrase means a lot to me, because I feel a contemporary composer, but not of that kind of contemporary, so linked to the more extreme experimentations that
Hmm.
I admire, I respect, but I don't feel suitable for I'm looking for in music. So I think that harmony and the harmonic language has still a lot to do to everyone.
Oh, it's got a long way to go, and there's so much unexplored territory out
Yeah.
there. And you mentioned Schoenberg. I mean, your
Mm.
your your music, at least what I've studied so far, is far away from what Schoenberg did.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Especially in his 12-tone explorationary
Hmm.
period.
Sure, sure, sure.
No,
Yeah.
but I think Queen Bee is a really exciting piece, and I'm looking forward to bringing it to life with the North State Symphony, and looking forward to this process with you, and letting our listeners get to know hopefully a little bit more of your work before we hear the ultimate product. So,
Hmm.
Andrea, thank you so much for taking some time to chat with me,
Great.
and we look forward to learning more about you throughout this coming year.
Yeah, sure, sure. I'm here.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, and be safe in Milan.
Yeah, sure. Say the same. I say the same for you. We are passing a hard period, but we have to look later and forward.
All we can do now
Okay.
is forward think. Yes. All right.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Andrea.
you.
Goodbye.
Ciao. Ciao.